Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. You know, when I picked up this book, A Return to Love, I have to admit I was a little unsure.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, Marianne Williamson, she's great, but sometimes self-help books, they all start to sound the same, you know? But this one really got me thinking.
It's funny you should say that. Most people I've talked to have a similar reaction. Like, they think they've heard it all before, you know? Love yourself, be kind, blah, blah, blah. But Williamson, she cuts through all that.
She does. She doesn't just tell you to choose love. She explains why it's so hard in the first place. Like, she really digs into the fear that holds us back.
Yeah. It's like we're all carrying around this baggage, all these fears and insecurities, and they just get in the way of really experiencing love.
And the thing is, she doesn't shy away from big words like miracles. Like, actually shifting your perspective from fear to love can create miracles.
Right. It sounds kind of out there at first, but when you actually start to think about it, it makes sense, you know?
Totally. Have you ever noticed how, like, when you approach a situation with fear, it just seems to make things worse?
Oh, all the time.
Like, it just snowballs into this big mess.
Exactly. It's like fear has this way of blinding us to solutions. We can't think straight, and then we end up making impulsive decisions or just freezing up completely.
Yes. It's like that feeling you get before a big presentation, you know? All that fear just makes you forget everything you practiced.
Exactly. But then when you finally relax and maybe even let yourself be excited about the topic, suddenly you find your groove again.
It's like a weight has been lifted. And I think that's kind of what Williamson means by miracles. It's that shift in energy, that clarity that comes when we choose love instead of fear.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about big life-changing moments either. It's the everyday choices, you know.
Yeah, so how do we actually, like, put this into practice? Like, how do we actually choose love when we're faced with a difficult decision or when we're feeling stressed or afraid?
Well, she talks about how every choice we make ultimately stems from either love or fear. So it's about pausing, taking a step back and asking ourselves, am I reacting out of fear right now, or am I acting from a place of love?
Okay, so it's about being mindful of our intentions.
Exactly. Like, am I choosing this job because I'm afraid of failing if I follow my passion? Am I staying in this relationship because I'm afraid of being alone? Or am I making these choices because they feel aligned with my values, my heart, with love?
Oh, 100%. Fear can be so sneaky, though. Like, it can disguise itself as being practical or playing it safe.
Oh, absolutely. But Williamson, she'd say that those fear-based choices, they might seem safe in the moment, but they're actually keeping us from our true potential.
So choosing love means taking risks sometimes, being vulnerable, even when it's scary.
Exactly. And you know, this is where Williamson, she brings in this whole spiritual element that I think makes this book so unique.
Okay, yeah, she's not shy about talking about God, but it's not in this preachy, judgmental way that a lot of people might expect.
Right. It's more like she's talking about this universal energy, this all-encompassing love that connects us all.
It's like this radical idea that God is love and love is God.
Exactly.
Yep.
And when we choose love, we're aligning ourselves with that divine energy. We're tapping into something bigger than ourselves.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense when you think about it in terms of fear being the opposite of love.
Exactly.
Like, if fear is what separates us, love is that unifying force that brings us together.
Exactly. And you know what's amazing about that? It means we don't have to earn love. We don't have to prove ourselves to be worthy. We already are.
That's a really powerful message.
It is. It's like a huge weight lifted off our shoulders.
Yeah.
We can just be ourselves, flaws and all, and know that we are loved.
Which is a perfect segue into one of the things Williamson is most known for.
Right.
Forgiveness.
Right.
And she dedicates a huge chunk of the book to talking about the transformative power of forgiveness. But it's not about letting people off the hook for bad behavior, right?
Not at all.
It's more about freeing ourselves from the anger and resentment that's eating us up inside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine carrying around this heavy backpack full of rocks. That's what resentment does to us, you know?
Wow, that's a good analogy.
Forgiveness is like setting that backpack down. It's about choosing to let go of the pain, not because the other person deserves it, but because we deserve to be free.
Wow, that's really powerful. So, okay, if choosing love means letting go of fear and practicing forgiveness, where do relationships fit into all of this? Because let's be real, relationships can be messy.
Oh, yeah. They're like the ultimate training ground for love, wouldn't you say?
For sure. And Williamson, she has this really interesting perspective on relationships. She calls them assignments.
assignments.
Yeah. Like, she believes that romantic relationships aren't just about finding someone to make us happy or complete us, but they're opportunities for growth and learning about love.
Oh, interesting. So it's not about finding the one, but rather about the journey of self-discovery that happens through our interactions with another person.
Exactly. Like, she says that our romantic partners, they often mirror back to us our own patterns and wounds and things we need to work on within ourselves.
So it's like a two-way street. We're both learning and growing together.
Right. And she makes a distinction between what she calls special relationships and holy relationships.
Okay, now I'm really interested. What's the difference?
So a special relationship is kind of like that fairy tale idea of finding your soulmate, your other half. It's very much about needing the other person to complete you, you know?
Oh, okay, I see. So it's based on a sense of lack, like something is missing within ourselves that we're hoping the other person will fill.
Exactly. But a holy relationship, on the other hand, that's about two whole, complete individuals choosing to come together and share their lives. It's about mutual growth, support, and a deep respect for each other's journeys.
Wow, that's a really different way of looking at it. Yeah. So it's not about needing the other person, but rather about choosing them because you love and appreciate them for who they are, flaws and all.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean that holy relationships are always easy or conflict-free, but the intention is different.
So instead of trying to change each other or mold each other into our ideal partners, it's about accepting each other unconditionally and supporting each other's growth.
Exactly. And that takes a lot of self-awareness and a willingness to look at our own stuff, our own baggage that we bring into the relationship.
Right, because often the things that annoy us most about our partners are reflections of things we don't like about ourselves.
Oh, tell me about it. It's like they're holding up a mirror, and sometimes we don't like what we see.
Exactly. But instead of getting defensive or blaming them, we can choose to see it as an opportunity for growth.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here already, from choosing love over fear to the power of forgiveness and this whole new perspective on relationships as spiritual assignments. You know, when we talk about these holy relationships and not needing the other person to complete us, it makes me think about all the expectations we put on our partners.
It's true. We often expect them to fix us, make us happy, fulfill all our needs.
Right, like, you're supposed to make me happy.
Exactly. But as Williamson points out, true happiness, it comes from within. We can't rely on someone else to give us something that we're not already cultivating within ourselves.
That makes sense. It's like, if you're not happy with yourself, no amount of external validation or love from another person is going to magically fix that.
Exactly. And you know, this whole idea of finding fulfillment from within, it ties into another big theme in the book, surrendering to something bigger than ourselves.
Okay, surrender. Now, that's a word that can bring up a lot of resistance, right?
I know, especially in a culture that values independence and self-reliance so much. But we have to remember, Williamson, she's not talking about becoming passive or giving up on our goals and dreams.
So it's not about waving a white flag and just letting life happen to us.
No, not at all. It's more about letting go of the need to control everything, to micromanage every little outcome. It's about trusting that there's a bigger picture, a higher plan, even if we can't see it in this moment.
Okay, so it's more about surrendering to the flow of life, trusting that we're being guided even when things don't go according to plan.
Exactly. Like sometimes the greatest gifts, the most amazing experiences come from those unexpected detours, those moments when we have to let go of our carefully crafted plans and just surrender to the ride.
That's so true. It's like when you're on a trip and you have this whole itinerary planned out, but then you stumble upon this hidden gem of a restaurant, or you take a wrong turn and end up at the most breathtaking viewpoint you've ever seen.
Exactly. Those are the moments we remember, right?
Yeah.
The ones that take our breath away. But to experience those moments, we have to be willing to let go of a little control.
And trust, right? We have to trust that even if things don't go exactly as planned, it's all going to work out.
Exactly. Trusting in ourselves, trusting in something bigger than ourselves, whatever that looks like for us.
So where does faith come in? And I don't necessarily mean religious faith, but just a belief in something beyond what we can see and control.
That's a great point. Faith is essential because it allows us to relax a little, to not carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We can let go of the struggle, the need to figure everything out, and just trust that we're being supported even when we can't see it.
So it's about finding that sense of peace and surrender even amidst the chaos of life.
Exactly. It's not that our problems magically disappear, but we're able to approach them from a calmer, more centered place. We're no longer ruled by that fear and anxiety.
We're able to ride the waves instead of getting tossed around by them.
Exactly. And Williamson, she offers some really practical tools for cultivating this sense of surrender and inner peace. Things like meditation, spending time in nature, connecting with something larger than ourselves through prayer or spiritual practice.
It's about finding that stillness within, that quiet space where we can connect with our intuition and inner wisdom.
Exactly. And when we create that space for stillness, that's often when our true purpose starts to reveal itself.
Our purpose. You mean our life's work, our calling.
Exactly. And this is another area where Williamson offers a really refreshing perspective. She doesn't see work just as a means to an end, a way to pay the bills and survive.
She sees it as an extension of our spiritual selves, a way to express our creativity and make a difference in the world.
Exactly. She encourages us to find work that lights us up, that aligns with our passions and values, that allows us to use our unique gifts to contribute to something larger than ourselves.
So it's not about finding a job, it's about finding our calling, that thing that makes us feel truly alive and aligned with our purpose.
Precisely. And she's clear that our true purpose is not just about achieving success or making money, although those things can be nice too. It's of the impact we have on the world, the way we use our talents to make a positive difference, no matter how big or small.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where our passion, our skills, and the needs of the world intersect.
Exactly. And when we approach work from that place of purpose and service, it no longer feels like a chore. It becomes an expression of our love.
It's like we're no longer working just to survive, we're working to thrive, to contribute, to make a difference.
Exactly. And that brings a whole new level of fulfillment and joy to our lives, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. But let's be real, finding and fulfilling our purpose, it can be challenging, especially when that pesky ego gets in the way.
You said it, the ego, that's a whole other topic.
And Williamson definitely doesn't shy away from tackling it head on. Now, when she talks about the ego, she's not talking about being arrogant or self-centered.
Right. It's more about those limiting beliefs, those negative thought patterns that keep us feeling small and unworthy.
It's that inner critic that's constantly judging us, comparing us to others, telling us we're not good enough.
Exactly. And it can be so loud and persuasive, right? But the good news is we don't have to believe everything our egos tell us.
So how do we quiet that inner critic? How do we overcome those limiting beliefs that hold us back from stepping into our full potential?
Yeah, it's like we have all this incredible wisdom, this roadmap to living a more fulfilling life, but it can feel overwhelming to actually put it into practice. Absolutely. It's like, okay, I get it. Choose love, surrender, forgive. But how do I actually do that in the real world? When I'm facing a tough deadline at work or dealing with a difficult family member.
Exactly. It's like, where do I even begin?
Well, the good news is it's not about being perfect.
Oh, thank goodness.
It's not about flipping some switch and suddenly becoming this perfectly loving, enlightened being. It's a process. It's about taking small steps day after day and being kind to ourselves along the way.
So it's more about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. It's like learning a new skill, like playing an instrument or speaking a new language. It takes time, practice, and a willingness to make mistakes along the way.
So instead of beating ourselves up for not being perfectly loving all the time, we can approach this journey with a sense of curiosity and playfulness, right? Like, oh, this is interesting. I wonder what would happen if I chose love in this situation, instead of reacting out of fear.
Exactly. Bring that sense of curiosity and experimentation to it. And remember, it's okay to stumble. It's okay to fall back into old patterns sometimes. The important thing is to keep practicing, keep coming back to that intention of choosing love.
So what are some practical things we can do to cultivate that love-centered mindset? Where do we even begin?
Well, Williamson talks a lot about the importance of self-love. And I don't just mean taking bubble baths and buying ourselves nice things, although those things can be nice too.
Ha! Self-care is important.
It is. But self-love, in this context, it goes deeper than that. It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness, compassion, and understanding that we would offer to a dear friend.
So becoming our own best friend instead of our own worst critic.
Exactly. It's about noticing that negative self-talk, that inner critic that's always putting us down, and choosing to challenge those thoughts with more loving and supportive ones.
So the next time I catch myself thinking, I'm not good enough or I'm going to mess this up, I can choose to counter those thoughts with something like, I am worthy, or I am capable, or I'm doing my best.
Exactly. And you know what's really helpful for shifting that negative self-talk? Gratitude.
Gratitude, yes.
Taking time each day to appreciate the good things in our lives, no matter how small, can have a profound impact on our overall well-being.
I've heard that. They say gratitude can actually rewire our brains to focus on the positive.
It's true. There's actual scientific evidence to support that. It's like when you're feeling down and you start listing all the things you're grateful for, suddenly your whole perspective shifts. You realize that maybe things aren't so bad after all.
It's like a muscle we can strengthen, that ability to focus on the good.
Exactly. And the more we practice gratitude, the easier it becomes to see the beauty and abundance all around us, even in the midst of challenges.
It's like we're training our minds to see the love that's already present in our lives.
Exactly. And another powerful practice that goes hand in hand with gratitude is forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Yes, we talked about that earlier, but it's so important. It's just so easy to hold on to grudges, especially when we feel like we've been wronged.
It is. It's human nature to want to hold on to that anger, that resentment. But as we discussed earlier, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It only harms us in the long run.
It keeps us stuck in that cycle of pain and bitterness.
Exactly. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning the behavior or saying what happened was okay. It simply means choosing to release the grip that anger and resentment have on us. It's about freeing ourselves from the burden of the past so we can move forward with a lighter heart.
It's about recognizing that we're all human, we all make mistakes, and we're all doing the best we can with what we know at the time.
Exactly. And sometimes the most challenging person to forgive is ourselves.
Oh, that's so true. We can be so hard on ourselves, carrying around all that guilt and shame from past mistakes.
Exactly. But we have to remember, the past is over. We can't change what's already happened, but we can choose to learn from it, forgive ourselves, and move forward with greater wisdom and compassion.
It's about giving ourselves the same grace and understanding that we so readily offer to those we love.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing about forgiveness, both for ourselves and for others, is that it creates space for more love to flow into our lives.
It's like we're breaking free from those self-imposed chains of resentment and stepping into a space of true freedom and inner peace.
Exactly. And that inner peace, that alignment with love, it doesn't just stay within us, it ripples out into the world.
It's like our own personal transformation has a ripple effect, influencing the energy of the world around us.
Precisely. Williamson talks about this interconnectedness, how we're all part of something much larger than ourselves. Our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, they all contribute to the collective consciousness.
So every time we choose kindness over judgment, every time we offer a helping hand, every time we stand up for what's right, we're not just making a difference in our own lives, but we're contributing to a more loving and just world for everyone. It's a beautiful reminder that love truly does have the power to change the world. And it starts with each of us, right here, right now, making the conscious choice to return to love again and again. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of a return to love. We hope you found it insightful, inspiring, and maybe even a little challenging. Remember, you are loved, you are worthy, and you have the power within you to create a more beautiful world. Until next time, keep choosing love.